Welcome and hello. My name is Allison Harmon, and I'm privileged and honored to be the Dean of the College of Education, Health and Human Development. Thank you for joining us for the second annual EHHD Talks. This is part of our goal to turn this college inside out, which means we want what we're doing inside to be visible on the outside. We'd like to share more of what we're doing with our alums and our friends and the community, and sometimes that community is the whole state of Montana. So thanks for being here. I would like to say thank you to a couple of our staff and my leadership team. I don't know if they're in the room. I see Becky standing in the back. Thank you, Becky. She's a fabulous staff member for us. And where's Karen Funk? Oh, there she is. Way there. Karen is also a fabulous staff member that helped to organize this. I want to introduce the college leadership team as well. Kate Kaminsky is our assistant dean. We have Tricia Seifert is department head for education. Want to give a wave. Debbie Haynes, there she is our department head for health and human development department. And then I also want to introduce Bill Brough, who is going to be our MC for tonight. Bill is our Associate Dean for Research and Development. So pretty simple tonight. We've got 6 folks, 6 award-winning faculty for teaching, research, and service. Our format is simple, 10-minute talks with maybe time for 1 or 2 questions between, and then at the end we'll bring everyone up in case you have questions that the whole group can address. So let's kick off the show.
Good evening, and thank you for coming to the second annual EHHD Talks. It's my pleasure to introduce you to each of the speakers. After the speaker finishes his or her presentation, he or she will have or be able to take 1 or 2 questions from you. And then at the end, we're going to assemble all the presenters up on stage, and you'll have the opportunity to ask more questions of any of them. So, without further ado, first up is Dr. Mark Nelson. Tonight, Mark will share with us his top 5 kernels of wisdom that he has learned from more than 20 years of teaching MSU students in the counseling program. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Mark Nelson.
Welcome, everyone. Excuse me. Thanks for coming and spending some time with us this evening. My name is Mark Nelson, and my presentation tonight is on teaching and learning. I'm not here tonight really as an expert. I'm here to share a few thoughts with you about what I've discovered about teaching and about learning. First, I guess I'd like to say that I believe in hands-on style of teaching and using sort of face-to-face interactions with my students. And secondly, and maybe most importantly, my students really have been my greatest teachers about how to be a professor. So I'd like to maybe start with a story of sorts. I'd like to introduce you to Larry Walters. Larry went to a local Army-Navy surplus store, and he purchased 45 weather balloons and several tanks of helium. He securely strapped the balloons to his sturdy lawn chair, and he anchored the chair to the bumper of his Jeep. And he inflated the balloons with helium. Larry packed several sandwiches and a 6-pack of Miller Lite, and he loaded his pellet gun, figuring that he could pop a few balloons when it was time to descend. Larry's plan was to lazily float up to a height of about 30 feet above his backyard and come back down in a few hours. Yeah, it worked quite that way for Larry. Because when Larry cut the cord that was tethering his lawn chair to the Jeep, he streaked into the LA sky as if he had been shot from a cannon. He did not level off at 30 feet. He leveled off at 16 1,000 feet. He was 3 miles in the air in a lawn chair. At this height, he couldn't risk shooting any of the balloons, so he stayed there, drifting cold and frightened for more than 14 hours. When he found himself in the primary approach corridor of Los Angeles International Airport. So you see, it was a Pan Am pilot that first noticed Larry. He radioed the tower describing passing a guy in a lawn chair with a gun. Radar confirmed the existence of this object at 16,000 feet above the airport, and LAX emergency procedures swung into full alert, and a helicopter was dispatched to investigate. By then, the offshore breezes had begun to blow, and Larry was beginning to drift out over the sea. The helicopter was in hot pursuit. It ascended to a position several hundred feet above Larry. It lowered a rescue line. Larry snagged this line with which he was hauled back to shore. As soon as Larry was hauled to earth, he was arrested by waiting members of the Los Angeles Police Department for violating LAX airspace. Okay, so this is not necessarily a great example of learning for Larry, but I would probably suggest that Larry learned some things of what living at 16,000 feet is like that lasted him for a while. This story also sort of reminds me of the quote that common sense is maybe not all that common. So I said earlier that I sort of like to interact, so maybe if you would work with me, could you give me some one-word traits or qualities that you think go into making an effective teacher? One word.
Curiosity.
Curiosity, great.
Engaging.
Thanks. What?
Engaging.
Engaging.
Empathy.
Empathy.
Adaptability.
Adaptability.
Compassion.
Compassion.
Joy.
Joy. Who said nonstop? No. Great. Well, these are great. So we could probably be here for a while full aboard with these kinds of words. I think it probably tells us that there are a good many different kinds of qualities that it takes or that make an effective or quality teacher. So now here are a few of my discoveries. I think Bill referred to them as my top 5 list. My first one is this. Many people think that teaching and learning always come in pairs or that they occur together. However, I've learned that sometimes there can be a good deal of teaching without much learning. And sometimes there can be a significant amount of learning without a whole lot of teaching. So they can come together, but they don't have to come as a pair. Second, I feel like I've learned that I need permission from my students before I can really teach. It doesn't really matter how well I know my subject matter or how hard I'm trying to teach the material. If my students do not give me permission, then it seems like the exchange of ideas tends to stop. Like even right now, you may be deciding whether you feel that you are open to what I'm saying or sharing with the group tonight or not. I've learned to earn permission to teach and then find ways to activate the teaching process to sort of try to bring it to life. My third point is that experience is knowledge, and anything else is just information. Now, I don't mean to say that information is not important. Information is important, and in some cases, very important for us to have. Knowing, however, often comes from doing or experiencing. It is difficult, for example, to know how to ski from having read about it in a chapter of a book or even watching it in a video. We do it, then we know it. So I incorporate as much practice and application of ideas and skills as I can in my classes. My fourth one is one that I call mix it up. So we're going to mix it up. So if you will work with me, I hope, we're going to do a little arithmetic quiz. So Here's how it's going to go. I'm going to give you a number like 2, and you'll say,
4.
no. Wow. Wow. 10 minutes is certainly not going to be enough time for me. I'm going to give you a number like 2, and you're going to say 2. And then I'm going to ask you to add to it another 2, and you're going to say 4. Yeah, and then I'm going to say 1, and you'll say 5. Excellent. Okay, now that was not the quiz, all right? That was warm-up. So now comes the real quiz. Are you ready? I want it nice and loud. Fill this room with some air. 1,000.
1,000.
Good. 40.
1,040.
1,000.
2,040.
Good. 30.
2,070.
1,000.
3,070.
20.
3,090.
1,000.
4,090.
10.
5,000.
Wow. You were doing so well. So I think we left off somewhere around 4,090, and when I said 10,
Oh, yeah. 4,000.
4,100. So here's my point to you. I think if I had asked you to write them down, none of you would have gotten an incorrect answer. You can add those numbers and arrive at the right. But because I asked you to do them through your ears, sometimes we learn things differentially through our eyes, visually, or through our ears, auditorily, or hands-on sort of kinesthetic kinds of learning. The sad news here is that there are a fair number of people in this room tonight who have doctoral degrees, and I'm letting you know we will be asking for you to return those as you get My last piece is that reflection is key. I had this weird professor when I was in college. He was a physics professor, which is kind of an oxymoron. I always feel weird. So he came into class one day, and he grabbed a lectern like this, and he looked out at us, and he said, you know, we learn how to ski in the summer, and we learn how to swim in the winter. And he just stared at us. And we'd all assumed that he just went off into the deep physics abyss, like he's gone. But what he was really trying to say is that it's reflection upon ideas and concepts and groups of ideas and concepts that are really important for us to realize that they don't happen, we don't grasp them sometimes when we first hear them. We need to munch on them and reflect on them for a while. So crazy as he was, he might have been right. So let me summarize my 5 things real quick here for you. That teaching and learning do not always occur together. That I need students' permission to teach them. That experience is knowledge and anything else is just information. That I need to mix it up and use visual and auditory and kinesthetic types of techniques in the classroom. And that reflection is key. I started with a story, so I'm going to end with a story. As a pencil maker was putting his final touches on his work one day, he came to a point where he would pack his prized pencils into their box for shipping. As he looked at the last pencil to go in the box, he stopped and he told the pencil these 5 things. 5 things. You are capable of many great things. You will experience a possibly painful sharpening from time to time, but it will make you a better pencil. The most important part of you is on the inside. You have the ability to fix your mistakes. And no matter what the condition of the surface you touch, you will leave a mark. In these ways, I find that learners tend to be a great deal like pencils. And after all, we're all learners. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the evening.
What constitutes permission from your students? And how do you ask for it, and what do you do in its absence?
Well, I actually drop them from the class if I can't get their permission. Makes for far better teaching evaluations. I think the way I try to go about asking that permission is to earn some front-end respect and try to break the ice, try to convince them of the value of what we're going to try to learn together. I think sometimes when I've jumped in because I was eager to go do my thing, without sort of really engaging them initially, you kind of get that blank, standoffish, a lot of yeah, but responses from students and sort of consternation and tension in the classroom. Not anger or whatever, just not feeling like we're all in the same boat together. So, and without it, I just have to keep at it. Sometimes it doesn't happen right away. Yeah. Thanks. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Are you able to differentiate your instruction to different students?
In what way do you mean? From class to class, you mean?
If you have 20 students in your class, and they all may be at different levels of learning and activity or whatever, are you able to differentiate to those different learners?
Yeah, I think that the first thing I have to do is become aware of that. And I have made mistakes, and I'm sort of flashing on old moments where I didn't differentiate or didn't realize there was a differential level, but it's kind of a common thing for me because in counseling, we don't have an undergraduate degree in counseling, and I teach school counseling in particular, so they come to me from all sorts of undergraduate degrees, so they're almost always on different footings when they come. So I try to sort of just establish a common baseline, and from there